listening to America First Radio. Here is your host, Paul Adams.
Welcome back, everybody, and Happy New Year. The theme of this podcast is unity. We got a lot to cover here, and things are accelerating at a very fast pace. Things are becoming very fluid. There's something that tells me that America will soon go into some kind of free fall right before the inauguration. You need to check out the definition of gaslighting on the internet. It's a form of mental abuse in which information is twisted, spun, it's omitted in favor of the abuser. It's false information presented with the intent of making victims doubt their own memory, their own perception, and their sanity. And we are living at a time when the false news are coming at us at such a torrent. It's like a tsunami of false news coming at us. They're pulling all the stops, and there's a lot of gaslighting going on. So we're living in both dangerous times and potentially very transformative times. The best way to compare it is to the transformation of a caterpillar as it's morphing into a butterfly. You know, I can't think of a better metaphor. So there's a lot of things happening that are out of sight, beyond our view, on a higher dimension even. And we'll see. We'll see what the end result is going to be. It may be painful for a little while. You know, transformation is never easy. So we are still at maximum red alert. You need to stock up on food, water, fuel, ammunition. Get ready to weather the storm for 6 months to a year, okay? Let's get down now to the nitty-gritty, the brass tacks. Here's the lowdown. Underneath all this hoopla and the post-election celebrations, as we wait for the inauguration, which seems to be taking an eternity, the globalist vipers are working overtime to retain control of the narrative, okay? They are preparing for the final takedown of America through a multi-pronged political, military, financial shock and awe, and add some predictive programming on top of that. We just heard from Baroness de Rothschild, who joined Twitter on November of this year, which is kind of odd. I don't even know if this is a real account. When you look at the people that are that she's following, it seems a little bit funny, okay? Kind of odd that she's following banks. But anyway, maybe it's disinformation thrown at us, you know, just to bait us. She said in a couple of tweets, it's going to be a frightfully dismal year for the United States in 2017. No jobs, hyperinflation, more debt, and impeachment. Merry Christmas, you fools. In another tweet, segregated republic nations of populism, hate, discrimination, and anti-political correctness are self-destructive and the catalyst for World War III. So she is hinting, okay? And her handle on Twitter is BSSDE Rothschild. Anyway, check it out. It's always interesting. Food for thought. I hope the account is fake. But the first hint we should have had that, you know, America may be on the verge of collapse, teetering on some kind of a takedown, was the signing by Obama of the original NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, back in January 2013, which implied indefinite detention without charge or trial, as well as illegal military commissions. Okay, that should have been the weather bell right there. The second hint should have been the signing of the executive order called United States Policy on Pre- and Post-Strike Measures to Address Civilian Casualties in U.S. Operations Involving Use of Force. It was signed on July 1st, 2016. Okay, how many of you have heard about that one? What did the media have to say about it? Crickets. Which gives the United Nations the right to decide on what is an appropriate target and appropriate force when it comes to using force on civilians. How is that? And there's also reports now, there have been reports for months of people spotting vehicles with UN markings on them, and troops with UN helmets, and foreign troops, and troops without markings. I don't know what to really say about that. We need more confirmation. We need to corroborate, verify. The third hint is the recent signing of the NDAA 2017 by Obama, which was signed into law on December 23rd, 2016. You know, if capturing and killing Americans without a trial was not enough, they now control what is real and fake news with a Ministry of Truth. Okay, I woke up the other morning with an image of the Al Smith dinner. I don't know why. Okay, I pondered on that. I replayed the Al Smith dinner. I replayed the optics. We saw Trump sit at the table with Hillary. The Cardinal was in the middle. They exchanged pleasantries. They seemed friendly. He reached out to her, made her smile. The Cardinal, chit-chatted with both of them. Then we had Trump absolutely demolish Hillary in his speech, and Hillary did the same thing to Trump in her speech. And it was as if the globalists were telling us, this is the play, folks. These are the players we control. Welcome to the Kabuki Theater. We are in charge of the outcome. At the end of the day, there's nothing you can do about it. Enjoy the show. Trump is the nationalist contender. Hillary is the globalist contender in this match. Go to your separate corners and at the sound of the bell, come out and fight. And no matter what happens, our globalist agenda is going to be carried out unabated, unhindered, no matter what you peons try, okay? Because we, the globalists, control the agenda with the Vatican at the apex of the pyramid. We can, even control the weather. And enjoy it. So I'm not saying that Trump is not for real, okay? I'm not saying that at all. All I'm saying is that the globalists, the elite, are basically snubbing their nose at us. And now we learn that the Hillary camp funded the Kasich, Fiorina, and the Bush camps to attack Trump. Is it all making sense to you right now? Okay. Do you see where this duopoly, this two-party system is just Kabuki theater? Is it making sense to you by now? After all, Bill Clinton did publicly state that he does love George Bush, Papa Bush. So wake up, America. They're playing us like a fiddle. And I predicted that Obama would sign the NDAA on Christmas Day. Instead, he signed it on Friday before Christmas, right when everyone was the most distracted with the Christmas shopping. Now, I'll get back to the implications of the NDAA 2017 later on. But for now, what it boils down to is that the government can shut down any news source it considers to be broadcasting fake news or news that runs counter to the official narrative of the state. You don't have to be a rocket scientist, okay? Figure out that the flip side of this coin is the government can broadcast now its own narrative, its own fake news. This is 1984, the on-ramp to a dystopian matrix. The cabal can't compete with free speech in America, so they have to label it as fake news and shut it down. Let's replay this soundbite from Hillary herself, okay?
We are in an information war, and we are losing that war.
Hillary lost because the fake news mainstream media, which covered for her, would not or could not stand up to the tsunami of truth that seeped its way through the social media. That was the undertow that took Hillary down. We came up with a real story. We dug the facts behind Hillary. WikiLeaks, Guccifer, the DNC hacks, These were being circulated in 1,000 different ways by we the people. And as I said in my very, very first podcast back in June of this year, I said Obama should be arrested for treason. Go back and listen to it. I also predicted that he would do the greatest damage to America as a lame duck president. And I'm being vindicated. Because not only has Soros made him sign the NDAA 2017 into law, but Soros is now making him beat the war drums. Obama has ordered the CIA to launch cyber attacks on the Russian leadership at a time of his choosing. And Biden, the genius, Biden, remember Biden in a rally when he pointed out to the agent that carries the suitcase with the nuclear codes? You know, that's the kind of genius we have in the White House. This is something that we should not let the public in on when we conduct our cyber attack against the Russians. Thank you, Joe, for your brilliant insights. If you've been following along, okay, I keep saying that Trump is in dire straits. He has a lot of enemies. They want him out of the equation. He can't be controlled. He has galvanized the American right. He has galvanized patriots. And this makes for really great drama when you think about it, because the cabal, the elite, the globalists, they have galvanized the American left. So America is like a tinderbox. You know, we've been divided along left and right, hate lines between whites and colored minorities. By the way, whites are really the colored minority, okay, because we bruise purple or black. You know, we can tan anything from red to brown to bronze. And we are born pink. And sometimes when we get sick, we turn kind of greenish or yellowish, depending. So who are you calling colored? Snap out of it. They are splitting us up along political lines, geopolitical lines. You know, Russians against Americans, religious lines, the Christians against the Muslims. There's even a wave of provocateurs online that are fomenting anti-Semitism. They want us to get to hate the Jews. Why? Why? Well, you see, hate sells wars. And wars are good business for the elite at the top, for the military-industrial complex. You know, you should be just on top of that by now. Now, I want to talk a little bit about love, okay? And I know this is kumbaya stuff for a lot of people, but you know, love is something that is fundamental to a peaceful society. You know, we're going to go to 200,000 feet here. This is where it gets kind of spiritual, metaphysical, you know, the whole quantum plenum, interdimensional thing. Here's my advice, a word of advice, a word of caution in 2017. We need to substitute our knee-jerk, natural survival reaction of revenge, hate, and violence on those who have harmed us. We need to substitute it with love. It's interesting that the cabals have taken that slogan, love trumps hate, you know, as if they have that higher moral ground to teach us what love is all about. You know, they can really show us what tolerance is all about. We see it all the time, right? Oh yeah, we see it all the time. They've nailed that. This is the kind of twisted thinking that George Soros can come up with. It's almost like they take pleasure in desecrating truth. You know, just like they love desecrating, molesting, and immolating children. And that is being done by both the left and the right. Okay, both parties are in bed with the Luciferians. I'm not saying it's only the left. So we need to replace our feelings of hate with love, and believe me, once you try and do that a few times, I know it's going to be very, very hard. It's a bit like going to a gym and trying to work out with weights. They seem really a challenge at first. But once you do it a few times, you get it. You will have a sense of peace, and you will have no fear. And most importantly, negativity will not feed off your hate. Okay, when we hate, we attract not only disease, because we are not at ease anymore, we are diseased, but we also attract negative influences, spiritual influences, that eventually control our emotional well-being. So replace fear with love. And fear takes many forms. Okay, I'm not just talking about fear of people. I'm talking about the fear of being disconnected from those things we feel we are inexorably connected to, like our stuff, our TV programs, our movies, our food, because we may have to go through a period of deprivation. Don't be afraid. And especially don't be afraid to have your ego attacked. Okay, this is where a lot of people feel like they have to retaliate, they have to kick back, punch back, and there's no room for any other feeling. It's their default feeling, hate. So here's an exercise you can try. I've tried it lately, and I find it very healing, very how can I say, it's something that I never thought it would really work, but here I am after all these years. I'm finally catching on. I'm a work in progress, and I think we are all on that same kind of journey. But find all the people in your life that have done you wrong and start praying for them daily and watch the transformation in your life. You'll become more centered, you'll feel more at peace, you'll smile more, and hate will not be the first knee-jerk reaction when someone cuts in front of you. Instead, you just wave them on. Wish them a good day. So this is what I wish for you in the new year. Simply peace, inner peace. Because at the end of the day, folks, we have come with nothing, and we are going to leave with nothing except for our character when we go into the great beyond. So this is a galactic truth, I think. It's not anything new. I'm not giving you anything that you haven't heard of before. It's not just simply Christianity. It's not Buddhism or Hinduism or any other kind of ism. It's simply common sense. It's the gold standard. So yes, you need to also defend yourself and your property. If you have intruders in your home, you need to defend your family and your property. Firepower is warranted in certain instances, but only as a defense, and only after every attempt has been made to, resolve differences, if that is even possible. So this concept of unity is fundamental to America. If America is to become great again, we need to be unified. When was the last time we felt united as a nation? When was the last time we stood together as Americans and felt like we were part of something special and much bigger than ourselves? When was the last time when we hugged each other despite our political differences? When was the last time when we could agree to disagree and still enjoy a dinner together? I submit to you, and this is just my humble opinion, that America was never as united as when JFK was in the White House. I submit to you that America was never united as when JFK uttered these words, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." See, JFK never complained of how he was treated. He never felt threatened. He simply acted, led. Now, the paradox is that JFK today would find it almost impossible to be reelected, simply because of his womanizing. He could never pass the vetting process, period. He would be like Bill Clinton on steroids. But now, we have another chance here to stand united when Donald Trump takes office. See, I think that as a nation, during this election, we have crossed the Rubicon. We have crossed into an era of transparency and truth. These are the new coins of the realm, and we have left behind that old world order of opaqueness and obsolescent political machinations. We are more aware, more awake than we've ever been before, and more engaged, which is exactly the opposite thing that the elite and the media were trying to accomplish. They were trying to dumb us down, to inactivate us, basically unplug us. So the pendulum is swinging the other way, and they know that maybe a scorched earth is the only move they have left right now. Look, I'm not a political scientist, but it would seem to me that the social media were the catalyst in this crossover. It used to be that we just lived to make money and get ahead, but now, and a lot of that has to be attributed to the Bernie followers. You know, my hat's off to you. You wanted the truth, and Bernie gave you the truth. A lot of the Trump followers wanted the truth from a slightly different perspective, and they got the truth. The only people who didn't want to hear the truth were the people who wanted a woman for president. They didn't care what Hillary had done in her life. Don't matter. Do you want to hear it? Shut their ears. We just want to break the glass ceiling. That's all that's important to us. But apart from that, we have crossed the Rubicon, and we are entering into an era where the truth can set us free. And this is a major tectonic shift, and the elite know, and that's why they're clamping down on what's real and what's fake news. So we can call it, we can call it a spiritual awakening, we can call it a political renaissance, we can call it ascension, we can call it a thirst and a hunger for righteousness, call it what you will, but we have pierced through an envelope. We have looked on to the other side. We saw that the view is great, and now we cannot go back. If it wasn't for Twitter, WikiLeaks, the NSA hacking the DNC apparatus, we would have been skewered in this election by the old world order framework, where lies and blackmail color their world. So that's my 2 bits from 200,000 feet. If only we can get past January 20th without an incident, things will be good. And my sense is that they just may not let us go past January 20th without an incident. So let's go back now. Let's go back down to ground level. Like I said, we are at maximum red alert still. The sad part is that Congress on both sides of the aisle pushed this NDAA 2017, which Obama just signed. And the same GOP dogs of war now want a war with Russia. Look, if the Founding Fathers were here, they would have done things much differently right now. If you want to listen to what they would have done, go to my first 3 podcasts, or you can read my free online booklet called The Millennial America, Redefining Democracy. Just go to myamerica.win, and you can download it for free. And did you know that I was a write-in candidate in this election? I really didn't want to run, long story. But, when the house is on fire and you see some guy with a water hose trying to douse the fire out, you don't ask him, if he's a certified, trained fireman, do you? And that's how I felt. I felt like I had to do something. That was before I turned on to Trump, okay? Enough about me. Back to the NDAA. Senator Rob Portman, in a statement accompanying the signing of the NDAA 2017 bill, said, "The Propaganda Act creates an interagency center housed at the State Department to coordinate and synchronize counter-propaganda efforts throughout the United States government. The Global Engagement Center is under the umbrella of the State Department, but will also include the Department of Defense, USAID, that's the United States Agency of International Development, the Broadcasting Board of Governors, and the intelligence community. That's the alphabet soup of agencies. According to his statement, the center will counter foreign disinformation operations by our enemies. When I read that, I substitute our enemies by we the people. So this sounds to me, folks, like they just issued themselves a blank check whereby they can dictate the narrative they want us to hear. They can create the false flags they want us to believe in. They can foment the wars they want us to finance and fight. So they can get richer and more powerful. That's what it sounds like to me. What does it sound like to you? Are you awake yet? Like I said, anything can happen between now and the inauguration. Obama and Soros, they're known for their tactics, and their tactics so far have failed, which makes them all the more dangerous. They are running out of moves. I predict, and this is the worst case scenario, folks, okay? This is the worst case scenario. I predict they will unleash a false flag, which will usher in martial law. I predict they will sacrifice a major city for maximum effect that will make 9/11 look like a dud. I'm talking mushroom cloud, hundreds of thousands dead, and then they'll roll out the clampdown of the media, the martial law, lockdown of America, UN troops, foreign troops to control civil unrest, follow it up with mass arrests, silence the opposition, and they must do it sometime before Obama's term expires. So, which would mean that if they're going to do it at all, they would probably have to do it sometime between the second and third week of January. I pray it never happens. I pray it never happens. Soros, interestingly enough, he wrote an article on December 28th for project-syndicate.org. You can go there and read it yourself. He wrote that in voting for Trump, Americans elected a con artist and a would-be dictator as its president. And that his defeat of Hillary Clinton means America will be unable to protect and promote democracy in the rest of the world. Because that policy, of course, worked so well in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, and Libya, didn't it? Soros also slams Trump's new cabinet as containing nothing other than incompetent extremists and retired generals. And in explaining how he supports the European Union, because it is such a successful attempt at social engineering, of course, Soros laments the fact that the body has become increasingly dysfunctional and its disintegration has been accelerated first from Brexit, then from the election of Trump in the United States, and on December 4th from Italian voters rejecting by a wide margin constitutional reforms. Soros also goes on to bemoan that Vladimir Putin's alleged undue influence during the presidential election had dire effects on America. He says that at first Putin tried to control the social media, then in a brilliant move he exploited social media companies' business model to spread misinformation and fake news, disorientating electorates and destabilizing democracies. This is from the guy who is in the business of destabilizing democracies around the world and manipulating elections. George Soros, the dean of political engineering and social engineering. Soros also says that Putin felt threatened by color revolutions in Georgia, Ukraine, and elsewhere. This is from the guy who's actually funding the color revolutions, okay? This is how dystopian it's becoming. This is how You know, we talked about gaslighting. This is how they tried, in a convoluted form of logic, they tried to mesmerize the masses into believing their lies, their horrendous lies. This is the work of Lucifer, folks. The father of lies, okay? This is a Linsky 505 on steroids, trying to bring down America. And if you are not woken up to that fact, you've got a huge problema. You'll never wake up. All right? So, I pray every day for America. Look, I pray that I am wrong. Right now, America is in God's hands, okay? If He wants America to maybe learn a lesson here on the value of liberty and freedom and give us a taste of anarchy, maybe that's what it will take. Maybe, on the other hand, Trump will get into office with no incident and the globalists will somehow go away, be foiled, and they'll fold. If they shut down Washington, though, if worse comes to worse, the states would be left to fend on their own without a national military to defend them. You know, as per Article 4, Clause 2 of the Constitution. So America would be susceptible to an attack. Maybe China may strike. The nation could devolve into balkanized regions. You know, we already heard about California having the independent Republic of California has an embassy set up in Moscow. Okay, you kind of wonder why. Why Moscow? We may devolve into tribalism. You know, maybe as bad as Mad Max in some places where there's no rule of law. So that's why I keep saying stock up on food and ammunition. Write down the IP addresses of your favorite websites. Now you can go to a website called get-site-ip.com. And it'll give you the numbers, the IP address of your favorite websites, so that in case they do shut down the internet, instead of going to the URL of the website, you know, like yahoo.com, you can just plug in the numbers on the top and it'll get you to the website. I was just listening to Alex Jones talk about that. Thank you, Alex. This is how I got it. And just as a courtesy, the Infowars.com IP address is 108.61.241.188. So now let's discuss Russia a little bit here. Actually, we're going to discuss it a lot, okay? Because I got a lot to say about Russia. Not the Soviet Union, okay? That was a different animal. We're going to talk about Russia. As we know, the globalist cabals are poking the bear. They are testing Putin's patience. You know, apart from the 8,000 additional U.S. boots on the ground and the anti-ballistic shield installed along the Ukrainian-Russian border, we have been provoking Putin in so many other ways. So here's what's been happening. Let's take a look at some of the events in the past here. Number one, a Russian jet was shut down in November 2015 by a NATO country, Turkey, to provoke Russia. Because don't forget, a strike against a NATO nation is a strike against all NATO nations. And Putin didn't take the bait. Then, in February 2016, in Latakia, Syria, a dozen Russian generals were killed in a car bomb in their military base. Okay, Putin still didn't take the bait. Then, in September of 2016, Putin's chauffeur was killed in a staged car accident, much like the Princess Diana accident. This was a clear signal to him, you know, we know how to get to you. He didn't retaliate. Then, his ambassador in Turkey gets assassinated, Ambassador Andrei Karlov. Putin still doesn't react. Then, on the same day, Another Russian diplomat, Peter Holsikov, in Moscow, gets killed. And then on Christmas Day, a Tu-154 jet, whose passengers included more than 60 members of the internationally renowned Red Army Choir, got shut down. Now, I say shut down, they say it's mechanical failure. We'll see what the black box says. But either way, whether it is or it isn't mechanical failure, they're going to say it is mechanical failure because they don't want to fan the fires. This was no ordinary accident, okay? The Red Army Choir was headed to Syria to entertain the Russian forces on New Year's Eve. It crashed in the Black Sea close to the coast of Georgia moments after takeoff. There were 3 journalists on board from Channel 1, Russia's main television station. There was journalists from Zvezda and NTV television networks. There was a prominent, popular Russian philanthropist on board also, Dr. Yelizaveta Glinka. And there was an outcry in Russia, okay? The grandson of a famous Russian composer said, the best members of the ensemble have died. All the best soloists, the whole choir, everything will collapse now. The best ones are gone. That's what he said. So this was not just an airplane going down. This was, if it was an attack, this was the takedown of one of Russia's cultural pillars. And then as soon as that happened, the Russian embassy in Syria gets hit by mortar fire 2 days ago. And now, here's what we have. We have the dog of war, Lindsey Graham, saying that Russia and President Vladimir Putin should expect tough sanctions after cyber attacks during the presidential election. And it's coming across as a bipartisan Republican-Democratic initiative now. It's no longer the left. Okay, these are maniacal, pathological dogs of war. Now, Russia, on Wednesday, this last Wednesday, promised retaliation against Washington in the event of new economic sanctions. How can you blame them? How can you blame them? And to top things off, in Britain, Prince Charles added this inflammatory statement. He says, Putin is behaving a lot like Hitler. Hitler? Really? I mean, they claim Trump is also like Hitler, a lot like Hitler. And the interesting thing is, why would they use Hitler as a comparison? Well, we got to go back into history and figure it out. See, both Trump and Putin now are being baited. Constantly baited. Provoked. The heavy moral burden that the New World Order dogs of war are placing on Putin's shoulders parallels the outrageous provocations that were placed on Hitler during the fateful pre-war years during 1937 and 1939. This is the kind of baiting that was used on Hitler to get him to invade Poland. Yes, he did burn down his own Reichstag, but there were other factors that came into play. This may have been a case of engineered conflict. Maybe he knew his part, his role in this kabuki theater, and he just played it out to the max. He was forewarned, prepped, in the interest of protecting the greater good, that is, avoiding war. Hitler was compelled to pretend that the spontaneous blowing up of the Hindenburg airship on May 6, 1937 was an accident. There was static electricity. This was the big airship that they had brought across the ocean. It was trying to dock at the Naval Air Station of Lakehurst in Manchester Township, New Jersey. And it spontaneously combusted. And Hitler looked the other way. He also looked the other way as gangs of Polish ultranationalists and Jewish Bolsheviks slaughtered ethnic Germans that were trapped in Poland's Danzig corridor. Do some research on that. In the months leading up to the German invasion, the Polish army and the independent Bolshevik units had been slaughtering German nationals in the Danzig corridor. Mass killings of thousands of civilian ethnic Germans by both civilian and Russian NDVK Jews who were confident that Poland would quickly defeat Germany did the dirty work. Many apparently expect to take possession of German farms and businesses. There were an estimated 58,000 German civilians who died in the massacres prior to the 1939 invasion. And these people, the dogs of war, they kept pushing and pushing and pushing until Germany could take no more, and Hitler felt justified in invading Poland to liberate the captive Germans. And of course, like I said, we can argue that these provocations were pre-planned, pre-coordinated, pre-engineered, and Hitler was in on it, because he made several pleas to the League of Nations for redresses, and he was ignored. So this type of relentless baiting is exactly what they are doing to Vladimir. Fortunately for Russia, they only have to endure one more month of this crap, because Trump can arrive, and hopefully we can begin the process of cleaning out the warmongering rats from deep inside the bowels of the CIA and the Pentagon. Let's just hope that Putin has the patience to hold on that long. So what has Russia done lately to, signal to us that it's not in the mood for any more of this kabuki theater? Well, it has gone ahead and killed quite a few officers in Aleppo. These were U.S., British, and Qatar officers. Amongst them were 30 Israeli officers coordinating the onslaught. And in response now, the United States has expelled 35 Russian diplomats and has closed 2 compounds. Trump is now meeting with the intelligence community to examine in detail these Russian spy accusations. We need to get to the bottom of this. So what could Russia do if push came to shove and we were all out in a hot war? There are certain deterrents in place that we need to know about, because if push came to shove, Russia could, not just hit us with an EMP, but could send one of its 40-ton torpedoes heading towards our shores with a 100 megaton nuclear warhead on it. That is the equivalent of 6,700 Hiroshima atomic bombs. And if it detonated offshore somewhere, it could create a 600-foot high tsunami that would wipe out either the East Coast or the West Coast. Just for starters. And you know what's ironic? The irony is that the United States and Russia were allies in World War I and World War II. If you want to look back at U.S.-Russian relations, I'm not talking about Soviet Union, I'm talking about Russia here. They go way back. Back in 1780, 1783, we had the first representative of the United States to Russia, and guess who was a translator? John Quincy Adams. Apparently he knew Russian. In 1799, there was the creation of the Russian-American Company to develop trade opportunities in the North Pacific. In 1803, we had the acceptance of the first U.S. consul in Russia. In 1807, we established the formal U.S.-Russian diplomatic relations. In 1809, the first Russian representative to the United States came over. 1810, first Russian minister to the United States. 1812, the establishment of the Russian colony at Fort Ross near Bodega Bay in California, which was at a time a Spanish territory. In 1812-1814, the Russians tried to mediate in the war between Great Britain and the United States. The British turned them down. In mid-1850s, Russia, the United States were involved in the Crimean War. America favored Russian interests over the British and the French. This resulted in U.S. efforts to assist the Russians, particularly in the North Pacific, by allowing Russian ships to sail under American neutrality and by supplying the Russians, whose shipping was frequently disrupted by the British. In 1867, we had the purchase of Alaska for $7.2 million on March of 1867. And then, of course, First World War. Now, let's quickly visit here the Israeli UN debacle. I heard Kerry's speech. It went on for over an hour. He's obviously very well informed, but it looks to me like a stalemate. There is no solution that we can see in the far horizon for Israel and Palestine. I mean, we've been at this for, over 50 years. I'll come back to what I think the solution is here in a second. Netanyahu said Friday in a statement following the approval of the UN resolution, he said Israel rejects this shameful anti-Israel resolution at the UN and will not abide by its terms. The statement went on to trash the UN Security Council for the creation of the anti-Israel resolution, saying that at a time when the Security Council does nothing to stop the slaughter of 500,000 of people in Syria, it disgracefully gangs up on the one true democracy in the Middle East, Israel, and calls the Western Wall occupied territory. So is there a solution for Israel? I think there is. But it's an out-of-the-box solution. It has to be out of the box, because so far everything we've done has failed, and we just keep doing the same old thing. We just keep providing the same old solutions that have failed time and time and time again. And the definition of insanity is, you know what it is. I don't have to tell you what it is. You know what it is. In my humble opinion, Jerusalem should be the unpartitioned capital of Israel. Israel or any other nation cannot be Swiss cheese of foreign settlements. The Palestinians need to find a new stretch of real estate as far away from Israel as possible. Maybe somewhere in western Egypt or southern Saudi Arabia, if there's ever going to be any peace in that region. Because I really can't see how Hamas, who controls Palestine, will ever enter into a peace agreement if they won't acknowledge Israel, or if Israel won't allow Palestinians to have their own state. So, if a one-state solution holds back the Palestinians, and if a two-state solution is a non-starter for Israel, and if Hamas will never accept the existence of Israel, and if the political dynamic in Israel is keen on expanding Israeli settlements, then let's not keep flogging a dead horse. We have been at this for decades, and the likelihood of a solution becomes more unlikely with the passing of every year. See, Iran and Hezbollah and the rest of the Arab nations are getting more and more fed up. And they're not going to wait another 2 or 5 years for Palestine to enjoy its own statehood. Time is not on Israel's side. Nor is Israel's greater Israel blueprint on its side. So let's stop the insanity, folks. This could have a very happy ending, or it could have a very disastrous ending. The only solution is for the Palestinian people to relocate to their own homeland that has been carved out of another territory, out of another nation, somewhere by the sea, somewhere by some mountains, wherever they want. They can be as far away from Israel as possible, so that, you gotta keep them apart. I mean, there's no way you can have you can have old enemies close to each other. That's the only way it's going to work. Okay? Scrap everything else. Forget it. Stop talking about the same old solutions. They just simply will not work. I know it's out of the box, but it'll take financial assistance from the international community. It will take financial assistance from Arabian countries, but it can be done. It can be done. Just think how wonderful the world could be if Palestinians had their own nation, somewhere safe. You know, that's the only way. That's the only way. Now, I spoke in the last episode about the confluence of events that point to World War III, you know, how the Muslims want their last mufti, how the Illuminati want a one world order, how some Christians even, you know, they're expecting the end time war to end all wars. And the last straw for the globalists could very well be Trump's election. His election is the lethal blow to the globalists who do not want peace at all costs. They want wars. And as much as I would like to see Trump get into office, as much as I want to see him make America great again, I am a realist, and I fear the worst will be unleashed on America, and it will catch a lot of people by surprise. You know, that Al Smith dinner tells me the globalists are parading their contempt for America in plain view, in view of all the unwashed masses, you know, as we are smiling back at them and thanking them for the entertainment. Best case scenario, Trump gets in and they try to sabotage his every initiative after that. Okay? Like Obama is now trying to create a shadow government. A shadow government? Come on. We don't need a shadow government. Where does it say anything in the Constitution about a shadow government? There is no room, no place for a shadow government in the United States of America. Period. End of story. There is no room for subversion. There's no room. See, by shadow government, what you're really thinking about here, Obama, is where you get to control what's going on, okay, and the elected representatives and Trump, who have been elected into office, are just, you know, decorations, just puppets. Is that what you're thinking, Soros? Because it's not doable. Okay, this will not work. You realize what you're trying to spark here? It's not going to be good. And maybe that's what you're trying to spark. You are really trying to spark a revolution, right? I mean, let's face it. How else to create civil war? How else to create hate? My gosh, these people are insane. They need to be arrested for insurrection, for inciting violence, for treason. You don't go behind a MoveOn.org or Open Society and try to push yourself out as a philanthropist, and then, you know, in your back rooms you're trying to dig down a country. Come on, we've woken up, Soros. It's done. The show is over. Oh, man. You know, I'm going to stop here for today. You know, my wishes for you is a happy, peaceful new year. And I mean that. You know, it's a sincere, heartfelt wish. You know, despite the odds that we face. I just found this gem here the other day. It says, freedom is a participation sport, not a spectator sport. Do your part. And also my thoughts and prayers go to Debbie Reynolds' family and Carrie Fisher's family. We will miss them. Our prayers are with you. I pray for America every day, and I pray we can enter into an era of peace and prosperity. And even though I believe in the second coming, and I believe that somehow, some way, the dominoes will fall in such fashion that the second coming will be imminent someday. But I hope we can do our part. You know, I hope that we as sentient beings can ascend, can transcend our hate, can transcend our differences, and really walk the talk. You know, if you're going to say to me, love trumps hate, I don't want to hear it. I want you to show it to me. Show it to me, especially when I'm rubbing you the wrong way. That's when you need to show me that you love me, okay? When I'm not too agreeable with you, that's when you need to show me that you love me. Don't wait until it's a perfect time when I'm at my best. That's all, folks. God bless America, and God bless President Trump.